Hey guys, so today we have an analysis of the polling data that we've been getting from Monday, October 29. We've got a lot to cover and a lot of information that could change the view of the US Senate as of right now. So let's start off with the Senate races, then we're going to go into the two governor race polls, then the four governor race polls, and we'll finish off with the House districts, and then finally the national polls. So, starting off with the Senate races, New Jersey Senate race, Bob Menendez versus Bob Hugin. Emerson now shows Bob Menendez only leading by 5. Not the best look. He probably should be above 50% by now because it is very close to the election day, and considering he's not at 50% or more yet, he probably will get that, considering New Jersey is a Democratic state, but you never know. Bob Menendez is very unpopular and not a good candidate at all for the Democrats to be running. If we look at the polling averages, both candidates started off with modest leads. Bob Menendez started off with a modest lead, but then Menendez dipped to just leading by 4. But then he seems to have opened up the gap, but now the race is tightening again. So, very interesting race. This one, +5, +5, +7, +9. I mean, it could go either way, but you would definitely lean this over to the Democrats, even with Menendez's unpopularity. I'm keeping it in the leaning Democratic column. Next, we have the Texas Senate race between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. The latest Quinnipiac poll shows Cruz's lead is now down to just 5 points in the state of Texas, so that is something to note. Another thing to note, O'Rourke has broken the 45 barrier that he was stuck at for a long time. 45, 42, 44, 45, 43, 45, 45. He's finally gone in above 45 and into 46. If we look, there's a lot of factors in this race. It's going to come down to turnout, but at the end of the day, considering it is Texas, I'm keeping this narrowly in the tilt Republican column. Next, we have the Michigan Senate race between Debbie Stabenow and John James. This is much tighter than it once was. We had 20% leads for Debbie Stabenow, but for some reason, it's narrowed down to a 7% lead, a 9% lead, and a 6% lead. So, I mean, it's pretty much a lot more competitive now. I don't know what happened just then, but Debbie Stabenow actually seems to have a possibility of losing her seat, which is definitely something to consider. I'm keeping it in the likely Democratic column, but RCP is in the lean Democratic column. The last few polls have it in the likely Democratic column. I think it will stay there. Next, we have the New Mexico Senate race between between Mark Rich and Martin Heinrich and Gary Johnson. So, the latest poll now has it at a 16-point lead for Martin Heinrich. He's at 48% compared to the Republican at 32% and Gary Johnson at 16%. This one's probably going to stay in the Democratic column. I have it in the safe Democratic column. If the Republican were to drop out of the race, which is highly unlikely, they would pretty much all go to Gary Johnson, and it would probably make it a more competitive race. If the Republican or the if the Republican dropped out, I would probably move it into the likely Democratic column if it was just between Martin Heinrich and Gary Johnson. But for now, I'm keeping it in the safe Democratic column. Next, we have the Massachusetts Senate race between Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Deal. And Warren leads by 22%. That should be no surprise whatsoever. I have it in the safe Democratic column, and everyone thinks this will go to Warren. So that's it for the Senate races. Now let's move on into the governor's races. Michigan governor, Texas governor, Rhode Island governor, and Massachusetts governor. Now, let's start off with the Michigan governor race. Whitmer leads by 11%. That's something considerable. I mean, I have it in the likely Democratic column. I'm going to keep it there because I feel that Gretchen Whitmer and the Democrat in the Senate race, Debbie Stabenow, they can kind of help each other along and they can drag each other over the finish line. So yeah, both Michigan races in the likely Democratic column. Next we have the Texas governor race between Greg Abbott and Lupe Valdez. Latest poll has this Abbott plus 14. This is not going to go to Lupe Valdez. People make the argument that, Better Overall could drag over Lupe Valdez, but it's not going to happen. Lupe Valdez will not be the next governor of Texas. That's all that needs to be said around that race. Next we have the Rhode Island governor race between Alan Fung and Gina Raimondo, the unpopular Democratic incumbent. Raimondo leads by 11%. That's something to note. I'm keeping it in the likely Democratic column, and I feel it really slides in there quite well. In Massachusetts, this is going to go to the Republicans. Baker up 39. There's no possible way this is going to go to Jay Gonzalez. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Anyway, let's go on to the congressional districts. So we have California 25, New Mexico 1, New Mexico 2, New York 27, and Virginia 7. So if we pull over our house map, let's start off in the state of California. So I have this race. If we zoom into the state of California, the 25th district, I have this in the tilt Republican column. I think that was because of a variety of factors. Fundraising numbers not great for the Democrats in that district. Knight leading by 4 points. That's something to note. Pretty good for the Republicans there, but we're getting quite a lot of conflicting data from that district. Next we have the 1st district of New Mexico, the Democrat leading by 10. I believe I may have this in the safe Democratic column. I'll need to check the 1st district of New Mexico. Yeah, I have this in the safe Democratic column. Because of this new poll that has the Democrat up 10, I'm moving the 1st district from the safe Democratic column into the likely Democratic column. Next we have the 2nd district of New Mexico. Latest Emerson poll shows a tie. That's something to note between Yvette Herrell and Yoshi Torres Small. I have it in the tilt Democratic column. I feel that there's a lot of energy on the Democratic side in this district. Next we have the New York 27th district between Chris Collins and Nate McMurray. It's a leaning GOP seat. I believe I have it in the leaning GOP column. If we go over to the 27th, I have it in the tilt Republican column. Because of that new poll, I'm moving it into the leaning Republican column. So that's also something to note there. In Virginia's 7th district between Abigail Spanberger and Dave Bratt, this definitely helped her. The debate, I saw it, her closing argument was, I was just blown away by that. And because of that, I moved it into the Democratic column, where I previously had it in the Republican column. If we look at, it's in the tilt Democratic column. This new poll definitely shows that, and I'm going to keep it in the tilt Democratic column. And now we just have 2 more polls to go. President Trump's job approval and the direction of the country. First one, we'll go over the Gallup poll of President Trump's job approval. Underwater by 14%. I think he has a better approval rating than underwater by 14%, but a worse approval rating than above 1%, so somewhere in between those ones. Of course, the bias of those two. And then Rasmussen, wrong track, plus 10, pretty much what we've been seeing all the time. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.